Hi guys, just making this video as an extra addition to my other videos, just focusing and going into a little more depth about a newfound hobby of mine, something that I've just very recently got into, which is collecting rare, obscure, collectible or vintage VHS, any of those categories really. This isn't going to be one of my usual videos in that I'm not going to be looking at stuff and talking about it as I normally do. It's going to be mostly just me talking quite subjectively about my newfound love for this format, the reasons behind me doing this, the fact that my family think that I've gone crazy, what it means to me, and really just the journey I've taken over the last few months. So here it is. I do refer to this in my video, in my other videos, on my other collections videos. It's mentioned a few times, and it is really a good insight, a good companion to those videos, as a kind of background to this hobby. I am going to mention a couple of documentaries that have influenced me over the course of the year. I hope me mentioning these documentaries doesn't ruffle any feathers or bother anyone. They are very important, so I think I do feel they need mentioning. I'll try and keep to the point in this video. This is all pre-planned, so I won't be going off on tangents and talking about God knows what, like what I usually do in my other videos. However, it might be quite long as I have quite a lot to say. If you have the same hobby as this and you're interested in this, or even if you're not and you would just like to give this video a try, I hope you can get some enjoyment from it and get something from it. I hope you can relate to it, and I hope you find it interesting. Okay, so firstly, just to give you a bit of a background on my hobby, I've been collecting sci-fi, horror and fantasy memorabilia for the best part of 15 years now. I guess it started when I was really young and used to buy things like comic books, action figures, trading cards, etc. But the ritual of collecting, cataloguing and putting things on display and really being surrounded by these things I love didn't really kick in until my late teens. I was heavily influenced by people who I hung out with at the time, and I very quickly became enthralled in this collecting culture, which really seemed to be growing in popularity at the time, with toy lines such as Real Toys, Todd McFarlane's Spawn line, Clive Barker's Tortured Souls, the Movie Maniacs line, and the list goes on. It was kind of like Forbidden Planet became the new hangout spot, and it was a way of reminiscing back to a childhood where I used to frequently visit places like that, and another major store in Birmingham called Nostalgia and Comics. But really, in my late teens, yeah, it all really started with collecting vinyl as I got into DJing when I was younger. The element of collecting and really going out and hunting for the stuff that I like really did start here, and it stayed with me ever since. The thing that really got me hooked way back then, when I saw when I saw what the people around me were doing. It wasn't just the quality of the items, such as some figurine collections that I was seeing around in people's houses. It was the quantity that people had, rather than just have one or two sitting on the desktop or on top of your computer or whatnot, or perched on the speaker. I knew this one kid, and he just had hundreds of the things, and he had them all on his shelf. And this is where it started. I started to see that, and I was influenced by that simply because it looked cool, and it was such a cool hobby, and it was also very expressive of what I was into and what I was about. So, jumping forward roughly about 9 years, it's 2009. Over the past decade, I've built up quite a respectable collection of videos, DVDs, figurines, magazines, CDs and records, etc, etc. I'm at uni and I'm in my second year, and I meet my now girlfriend. Now, if I wasn't into collecting before, her influence, it's really made me the collector that I am today. These are just some pictures of her living room and her various pieces. Okay. If ever there was a fine line between hoarding and collecting, I think this fits the criteria. But no, in all seriousness, she isn't a hoarder. Everything is catalogued and organised. But yeah, it's from this moment that I start keeping things mint, going to conventions and memorabilia fairs, looking for stuff on eBay, going on the hunt, and really just filling my shelves with cool items. I don't actually class myself as a true hardcore collector of this stuff. I just grab what I can when I can, and I enjoy the escapism that it brings. I find it quite therapeutic to browse through stacks of CDs or comic books. Yes, I'm a collector at heart. I rarely get rid of stuff, I accumulate. I know that this really is a growing culture at the moment, and there are people that really know their stuff and to own certain sought after items. That kind of thing can be a real statement in some circles. For me, I do this on a personal level. It's really always just been about escapism for me, and also self-expression. It's fun to share what you have with others and discuss rare items, which is what I do with VHS. So that was just a brief insight into the roots of my hobby. So now I'm going to talk about VHS. So yeah, I think it was last year, or it could have been the year before, that I started to pick up the odd VHS tape in charity shops. Even then, although I did get some weird looks when I was carrying them up to the counter, I kind of saw a value in them. All my friends and, well, everyone around me, they were just like everyone else really. Thought them to be obsolete, discarded their old tapes, thought they took up too much space, thought VHS to be worthless. I did the same, I've got to admit. I got rid of a hell of a lot, simply because they were taking up too much room, and I saw them as being easily replaced by DVDs. You know, we're currently in a digital age, and this reflects in that. In some circles, having formats such as a VHS, it's not that it's frowned upon, it's just that people don't get why other people collect it and still like it. It's because I think the younger generations, and to an extent all of us, we're all caught up in this download culture, which everything is so where everything is so easily accessible. But I think to an extent we've become spoilt by it. It feels nice sometimes to just go back to how it used to be, and it brings back good memories for some people. And it's also nice sometimes to have to look for something and search for it, and not have something so easily accessible, and not have something that's so easy just to download like that. You know, it's on your computer in seconds. Just to go out and find something that's a good experience, and that makes up a big part of this hobby really. People have said that I need dragging into the 21st century, and someone else compared it to listening to a Walkman, or, you know, still listening to tapes. But I don't see why these things should be forgotten about. If the technology still exists, which it does, people think it doesn't, and you know it does, and it probably always will. Also, there's just something very retro and cool about old videotapes. But I think a lot of this negativity surrounding VHS comes from the fact that we do have to conform, and society sets the rules. You know, you can download a brand new film that's just been on the cinema and be watching it on your iPad within a few hours, anywhere you go. Whereas years ago, you'd have to wait months, what seemed like at least a year, for a film to come out on video at your local video store, from cinema release. And then you'd only have it for 3 nights, until eventually it came out at HMV or Virgin, and then you could buy it for a small fortune. I am going to talk about video stores a little bit later on in this video. But anyway, moving on. So this is the reason why I think people distance themselves from older formats, and I think you have this kind of technology snobbery, especially among the mainstream and among people who don't really understand collecting culture. The problem with VHS is that as a format, it's really not that old. The last theatrical released to be then released on DVD, and VHS was in 2006. So I think it's kind of in this limbo where it's still around, but it's seen as this old technology from a recent bygone era. The quality is seen as poor in comparison to what we have now in HD, and it's not yet hit that kind of antique status like 8-track tapes, Betamax, or you know, even 8mm movies. They're highly sought after, highly collectible. There is a fan base for it, which I've discovered in the past few years, just as there is a following for vintage video games. Yeah, in many circles it is seen as lowbrow, and I go into many vintage shops in and around Birmingham, and I have to say the vintage shops in Birmingham are a bit snooty. But you know, to see a basket or shelf of really old ex-rentals or even some Betamax would be really awesome. And well, people, they're just missing a trick, really. The people that run these shops, well, they're just not on the same page, really, as VHS collectors. Charity shops are a big target for me. I've found other places since I started doing all this, such as really cool vintage stores with film and horror memorabilia, the odd indoor market here and there. Really, last year when I started buying them again, it was firstly because I still had a working VCR, and I saw films that I wanted to see and could pick up really cheap, such as, just off the top of my head, Oliver Stone's The Doors, which I got from a charity shop for 20p. The quality wasn't perfect, but I felt that this in itself had a certain charm to it. So I figured, what the hell, if I want to see that film, I'll just buy it. And I'll buy it on video. It didn't bother me. From that same shop, I went back there and I picked up Drunken Master, Quatermass and the Pit, Daz Boot, Flowers in the Attic, and I think there was a couple of others too. Yeah, I remember getting Quatermass and the Pit on video, and just having that feeling of, I found something of a gem here. I had no idea about the collecting culture that existed, or that there was such a huge following for VHS at the time. I'd seen the odd item on eBay here and there, and I seem to remember a guy at uni who helped me put together my first film project, holding a soft spot for VHS tape and talking to me about it. But I had no idea that there was somewhat of a revival happening, especially in the States. I think it is much bigger over there. But for me, this was a very personal thing when I first got this video. It held a value which I can't really explain. I did basically think that this may be worth something eventually, and there might be a following for this kind of thing, and I was right. Taking a look at this year, there have been two highly influential documentaries that have really sent my life crashing into different directions. And I'm not going to talk too much about this because it does take me a little bit away from what the main content of this video is meant to be. But I'll just mention, the most recent of these documentaries that I've watched is Leviathan. This was created by a group of guys based in my hometown in Birmingham, UK. I went to see this 2-hour documentary at the Electric Cinema, and I was just that enthralled by it that I went on and I bought the full length 10-hour version from the foyer afterwards. It's all about the Hellraiser franchise from its earliest conception right through to its legacy and the many films that it's spawned since. It's predominantly the making of the first 3 films. There's a lot of stuff about Clive Barker, obviously. His process in going from writing the novella to making his directorial debut. And it's really just about the many processes behind this extremely successful franchise. So this documentary, it's really influenced me in such a way that I've been a little bit lost over the last year or so. And a little bit torn between different hobbies and different directions I want to go in. And potential career paths. I've got a visual arts degree. Yeah, I've not really been sure which direction to go in terms of utilising some of the creative talents that I have. And this documentary has really given me focus and got me back on track in that I now know what I want to do. It's constantly changing all the time. This is part of my problem. I think I want to do one thing. I have a set plan. I tend to change my mind because I just have so much that I want to do. Yeah, at the moment I'm feeling good, I'm feeling focused. I've got myself a little part-time job after I've got some of these videos out. and pursuing some of my other hobbies, and get back into amateur filmmaking. I'm really interested in making. I'm really interested in short films, making short horror films, and writing, and also experimenting with sound in films. But yeah, I feel focused. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to start prioritizing what I want to do, and the documentary that I've just mentioned, it's really given me focus, and got me back on track. In that now I know what I want to do. I want to make short films. I want to experiment with sound and music, and yeah, and I want to write as well. Yeah, so the reason why I'm mentioning this documentary is because in a way it's mirrored by another documentary called Adjust Your Tracking. Now, this documentary did a similar thing in that it was highly influential on me. It took me in a completely new direction, increased my passion for collecting. To an extent, it has taken me away from my main goals, which isn't a bad thing. It's just down to my personal choice, really. It's changed a lot of things. I've been spending my time and resources on going out and hunting or being on eBay. It's triggered a slight addiction in me, I have to say. It's got me making these videos for YouTube, which I do enjoy. I'm glad to be back on track now with my other stuff, but I still very much want to keep one foot firmly in this culture, because for me it's fun. You meet interesting people, you talk to interesting people online, and it's just a cool hobby to have, really. So I saw the DVD Adjust Your Tracking advertised online. I just thought it looked really interesting, and yeah, found it fascinating, and really started to see VHS in a different light after watching this documentary. Going out and rooting through bargain bins and baskets in charity shops for rare gems. Although the documentary was about the resurgence of this type of thing over in the States, I did begin to look online and found other people that were doing the same thing in the UK. There were collectors on YouTube. I started viewing these people's channels on YouTube and seeing what type of stuff they had. Yeah, some of these other people, they are quite extreme, I have to say. Some of them swear by VHS and actually think it to be a superior format. Yeah, this I have to disagree with. I don't own many Blu-rays simply because I refuse to pay the amount that they are retail or even second hand. People did this with VHS and DVDs. They forked out loads, and it's really, I believe it's just a matter of time before the next best thing comes out, and Blu-rays will then drop in price and become less valuable. Then I'll probably start collecting Blu-rays as well, but by then I'll probably have no more room left for anything. I'll probably have no more storage room anyway.